What's going on, guys? We're back. Another UFC fight night. We had sporadic breaks, right? Pretty much from the Christmas on to now. Week on, couple weeks off. Week on, couple weeks off. So we're back now. We're on the run. Now we go through a straight run, back to fights. Football's obviously ending. The Super Bowl. We're here with the Super Bowl. So after that, it's pretty much not the only game in town because you got the NBA and stuff like that, but UFC really starts taking center stage now. So this is when we start getting hot. This is when we start really, really dialing in, and all focus now is on the UFC after the Super Bowl. So a couple things before we start. I do want to touch briefly about the Super Bowl, not the Super Bowl, but the NFC Championship game. Obviously, you guys know I'm a diehard 49er fan, but I want to bring a little bit more shine to what we were talking about last week with Brock Purdy. So if you guys aren't convinced now that this kid is actually a good quarterback, then you're never going to be convinced. So when you look at all the things you've asked this kid to do, right? You've asked him to win a game without a star, Debo. He ends up doing that. Now, this is 2 games in a row that this kid has come back by losing deficits. The last game wasn't good enough for people. What did they say? They said, well, it's only 7 points. That's really not a deficit, this and that. So now he goes in 17 points down when the whole team, like if everyone's going to say, well, he had a shitty half and the half wasn't that good, you could say that about the entire team. Chase Young was taking plays off the whole half. The defense played horrible. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. There was numerous amounts of times where they were giving up like 3rd and 18, 3rd and 12, 4th downs they were giving up. They were getting 10-yard chunks anytime they wanted them. So you can blame it on him, but you can also blame it on the entire defense as well for not giving the offense an opportunity to actually get onto the field and get into a tempo and get into a rhythm. Here nor there, though, he came out in the second half, and for anybody that calls him a game manager now, they're one of 2 things. They're either a hater or they really have no idea what they're watching. And that's like kind of scary because you got people talking about it. You got people talking about sports, talking about football, talking about martial arts, talking about all these things that if you honestly can sit down in front of that TV in that second half and watch that second half and still say that he's not a good quarterback, you don't know what you're talking about, and you probably should not be talking sports. This kid did everything off broken plays. Okay, so you can't say it was a Shanahan thing. You can't say, well, Shanahan dialed this up and Shanahan dialed that up. No, these are broken plays. This kid ran for 50 yards. He was making passes that were probably very ill-advised, but he was making them because he needed to make them. He was making the throws when they counted. He made big plays. That second half was absolutely 1,000% led by this kid. Now, am I saying that he's a Patrick Mahomes or he's a Tom Brady? No, I'm not saying that at all. But to sit here and call this kid a game manager and he's not good, if you can still say that after watching that second half performance, you probably shouldn't be watching football. And that's the honest to God truth. Either that or you're just a hater to the point where this is the thing that concerns me with these people that are still on this, hate train for him. They have a golden opportunity now to, because all season, what do they want? They want him to lose. They want to lose. They want him to lose. And even if he lost the game, all of a sudden the Titan would fall on him. That was it. The mallet would literally fall on him. He threw 4 interceptions against Baltimore. He's horrible. Meanwhile, like nobody loses a game, right? Like you're not supposed to lose a game. The kid's not entitled to lose a game. But what they're going to lean on now is they are going to lean on Patrick Mahomes. So what they'll say in the Super Bowl, if they don't get by Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, he couldn't get it done. He sucks. I told you. But they're not going to look at the fact that the dude went up against Patrick Mahomes and not many people can beat the fucking guy anyway. So, that's the problem. And then you're going to have the brainwashed and the people that follow some of these outlets that are going to be like, yeah, you're right. See, you couldn't get by Patrick Mahomes. So he's in a no-win situation here if he loses. Like, even if he has a great game against Kansas City, they're not going to look at the fact, well, it was a kid that really almost wasn't even drafted in his second year going up against one of the legends of the game who's still young. It's not like he's an old legend. He's a young legend, this kid. This kid's very young, Mahomes. He's still got a long way to go. And he won't get any shine. He'll just be lambasted because he lost to one of the greats of the game, which is fucking sad. However, If he wins this game, if he beats the Kansas City Chiefs and they end up winning the Super Bowl, yeah, of course, if it's a team effort, they all got to play in concert, 1,000%. But if he beats Mahomes and these people still say what they've been saying about him, they should be exiled off fucking social media. They should be exiled from their jobs at ESPN. Wherever these outlets are, they should completely be exiled. How you can say that a kid in his second year that wasn't even drafted to come in and maybe, just maybe, beat the Kansas City Chiefs and beat the big bad wolf and Patrick Mahomes and not give him credit, the credentials should be lost everywhere. So there's really a no-win situation. It's either going to be, well, there's not going to be a center line where you're going to say, well, he played really good. He played really good, but it was Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be either he sucks or the team carried him. So he's not going to win either way, because if the 49ers end up winning the Super Bowl, they won't give him credit for it because they just want to sit on this pedestal and act like they know what they're talking about. And if he loses, it's going to be like, I told you so, he couldn't win the big game. Again, it's not like he's going against someone like a Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins. He's going against the best. So there's a no-win situation for him. He could throw for 303 and lose a Super Bowl, and people will still say, well, told you you're going to get the big game done. And if he loses, it's going to be because of Christian McCaffrey, because of the defense, because this one stepped up. But he'll never from these people get any kind of shine. Mark my words when I tell you, but if he beats Patrick Mahomes and they still have that energy, I don't know how people could actually even take him seriously anymore. It's almost like the whole McGregor thing, when McGregor fought like Khabib and stuff like that, when I was, or when McGregor fought Mayweather, and I was like, they had some of these outlets, like this one guy, Robin Black, came out and he's like, he's going to do it. He's going to knock out Floyd Mayweather. He's going to do it. And I'm saying like, this guy actually, people listen to this guy. People are actually betting on Conor McGregor to knock out one of the greatest defensive boxers of all time. After that, like, I'm sure people still listen to him. I'm sure he's still got a popular, following and stuff like that. But how anybody can listen to a guy that actually pleaded with people to say that Conor McGregor was going to knock out Mayweather, credentials should be lost. And I've been saying that since it happened. I actually had a back and forth with him about that. I was like, how can you even come out and say this to people? The same thing with the Brock Purdy thing. Like, I'll take that same energy with the Brock Purdy. If he ends up coming and winning the Super Bowl, I'm going to bring that energy to those people. Like, how can you say that this kid is a game manager? In his second year, he went to 2 NFC championship games, and he played an entire year, his first entire year, brings us to the Super Bowl and beats Patrick Mahomes in the National Football League. The best of the best. Now that he's still a game manager. So, there's a part of me that I know there's going to be a no-win situation, but the people that actually know football and know what they're watching, they know that this kid is not going to say he's like a Tom Brady special, but you're lucky that this kid fell in your lap, because this kid is good and he's here to stay. All right, so let's get to the UFC. This is why we're all here. So listen, not the greatest card. We're not going to spend too much time on these fights. I just want to kind of give you a brief rundown on all of them and what my thoughts are. I watched a lot of film for this because obviously we had a week off. So I really dug into some of these guys. Some of these guys are newer. Some of these guys are coming in, with axes to grind and things to prove. I like the card. After really watching film on it, like if you look at it first look, you're like, meh. But I do like the card because I think there's a lot of proving ground here. And I think in the beginning of the year, you're going to see that. You're going to see a lot of proving ground fights, kind of see where the puzzle pieces are going to kind of, mix and match and fall. So the first main event, obviously, is Roman Dolidze versus Nasruddin Imavov. This is a good fight, but when I look at this fight, like, there's pros and cons on both sides, right? You got Roman Dolidze, who I was never really high on. I know people look at him, this is the guy, he's, trained under Damian Maia. He's got that whole old school mindset as far as, like, he's not afraid to go for the traditional leg locks and stuff like that. And he is dangerous, don't get me wrong, but he's a very plotting fighter. He throws with heavy hands, doesn't have any movement. He has no linear movement. And what I mean by linear movement, this is a guy that's not like kind of moving back and forth and side to side. He's kind of just in and out, north and south, in and out, north and south. Very hard on that front leg, so you could be chipping away at that. So he's kind of cookie cutter when it comes to the stand up. But if he catches you with his hands, you absolutely can get knocked out. And if you go to the ground with him, he does have, like I said, that traditional BJJ grappling style where he will go for the classics. He will go for those classic submissions that a lot of people just kind of forget about. The problem with him is his gas tank. The problem with him is he doesn't have a multitude of a bag of tricks. He is what he is, and if you train for him and you could stop certain elements of his game, you're going to have your way with him. Imavov, on the other hand, this is a guy who fights a lot more linear. He fights a lot more on his feet, a lot more on his toes. He does use lateral movement. I like certain spots with Imavov, but there are spots where he just doesn't show me that consistency. When he fought, Joaquin Buckley, you saw like a very good version of him. This is a guy, he was taking him down. He was on top of him, was nonstop pressure. He was not fearing the power coming back at him. And then when he fought Strickland, he kind of fell into that trap, right? He fell into that Strickland spider web. And as the time went on and as the fight progressed, he ended up gassing out, and he was just playing his game and playing Strickland's game and playing Strickland's game. Now, mind you, still a 5-round fight. He still went to the distance with him. He still actually proved that he could actually hang in there with a championship-level guy like Sean Strickland. But overall, I wasn't crazy about his performance. Even though I did pick Strickland in that fight, I just wasn't. I thought Imavov would give me a little bit more. So the consistency factor of Imavov was what bothers me. But you can't really look at that. You got to look at the culmination of both fighters. Who's got a better, bag of tricks? Who's a little bit more better the athlete? Who's got the better movement? Where these styles match up? And they got to pick from there. And I just think this is Imavov's fight to win or lose. I think this is going to be all predicated on where is his gas tank? Is he going to learn the lesson from that fight where he just really started tailing off at the end and fix that? If he fixes that and stays active, I think he can have a lot of success against a guy like Dolidze, who's kind of more plodding, kind of moves forward, kind of hawks you. And if Imavov uses that linear movement, all it does is start eating away at Dolidze's gas tank at that point, because now you got to track that fighter down. You got to chase that fighter down. You're going this way. You're going that way. You're just not moving north and south. So I do like Imavov here. I think that Dolidze has his own problems with his gas tank as well. So I think if Imavov uses, the lateral movement and space and all, the things that Roman Dolidze does not do, I think he can have a really good showing here. So I'm going to go Imavov. I'm going to go Imavov to finish the fight late in the fight, maybe the 4th or 5th round. Next fight, Moicano versus Drew Dober. This, to me, honestly, should be a 5-round fight. This should be the main event. When you look at a guy like Drew Dober, this is a guy who I always had a interest in his fights, just for the mere fact that he's not what he seems, right? He's a very well-spoken guy. He's obviously a good-looking kid. He doesn't need to, there's other things that this kid can do, but this kid just loves to fight, and he trains very hard. He trains up in altitude, so his gas tank is there. He's got very underrated wrestling, even though he doesn't use it all that much, but he kind of stems from a wrestling background. Got real thick trunk, thick legs. The kid will hit you with nasty leg kicks. The stabilization of his core is good. Like, the kid is just built to fight, and he's got very good durability. But at his age now, you got to wonder, are the sands of time, the father time, kind of extracting his durability a little bit? Because the last couple fights, he has been getting dropped. He has been getting rocked. Like, I've seen Drew Dober starting his armor starting to crack a little bit, and that's something he lived and died with for a long time. He lived and died with, I could stand in a pocket with you, I can trade with you, and no matter what you hit me with, I have a granite chin, so let's test each other's chin. And that's something that he took pride in. But after you take so much damage and you're clipped so many times and your wiring starts to kind of fray and start going, like we talked about with the axion nerves and stuff, slowly but surely your durability starts to fray and go away. He still has well over above average durability. Still got a shitload of power in his hands. He still is a very good technical fighter. All those things are there. But the one thing that made him a really fun, dangerous fighter to watch was how crazy his durability was. And I'm not too certain that it's at that point anymore. Lucky for him, he's fighting Moicano, who is a good striker in his own right, but he doesn't have a lot of power, right? This is a guy who just doesn't carry a lot of power in his hands. He kind of utilizes his striking to set you up for his ace in his pocket, which is his grappling. The problem with Moicano now is sometimes he can stray away from the game plan. This is a guy who I'll never forget when he fought Brian Ortega. As soon as he fought Brian Ortega, he was beating him from pillar to post. I mean, literally beating him from pillar to post. And then with like 10 seconds left in a fight, he, for some odd reason, he goes to take him down, and Brian Ortega, who's an amazing grappler, ends up cinching up a guillotine choke and beating him. So it's like little things like that bother me about him. After that, he ends up coming on a little bit of a run. He wins 2 straight, a really good fight against Calvin Kattar, good fight against Cub Swanson, then drops 2 straight, then wins 1, then loses 1, then wins 2, then loses 1. So his record's been kind of wavy and a rotating door, of wins and losses. And you got to wonder, is this who he is? And I don't think it is. I think Juan Moicano is a really, really good fighter. I just think ultimately he doesn't come in with the greatest blueprints. A fight like this, I think it'd be suicide for him to stand for 15 minutes with Drew Dober. I think that even though Drew Dober's durability is starting to weigh a little bit and wear out a little bit, Moicano's durability is not very good, and it's kind of proven how many times he's been knocked out. And I think if he stands with Dober will absolutely 1,000% knock him out. I think Moicano needs to utilize his striking as a means to an end to get the grappling to the ground, because I think there's such a large gap in grappling with Moicano and Dober that I think if he does get it to the ground, he does commit getting it to the ground, I think he could pretty much style on Dober and probably grab a submission. So I'm going to put my chips in that basket. I'm going to say that that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to go Moicano by submission. But I wouldn't be shocked if he does something stupid and decides to stand on the feet and trade with Dober, and Dober clips him with something. Next fight, Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikhov. Salikhov is a guy who, if you really look at his track record, he's a lifer, right? This is a guy who's got over 200 kickboxing fights. Really, really flashy. But the problem is his style is starting to kind of not like his age, if that makes any sense. Like, you got to, at certain points in your life, you have to kind of curtail your lifestyle, no matter what it is, to your age. Me, when I was in my 20s, I was a nut job. You could get me to do anything. I would jump off cliffs. I used to jump double railroad tracks with my dirt bike that I used to fall into beehives. I broke numerous bones. I was pretty much the epitome of a daredevil in my younger years. Now, you couldn't get me to jump off a flight of stairs. Like, I just know, I got to curtail my lifestyle now to more of my age, and I got too much to lose now. Same thing with fighting. You got to kind of alter your fighting style. Look at guys like, look at some of these guys that are older, that kind of like Andrei Arlovsky, that kind of alternated his style from what he is to what he is now, because that's what fits him. So Salikhov, he does a lot of spinning attacks, a lot of crazy strikes. He's still kind of caught up in that age 30, 29, kind of fight style, and it's not going to work well for him for too much longer. He has not gotten bitten by the age bug, though, at 39, 40 years old. He still looks pretty good. He still looks pretty sharp. He still looks pretty fast. He still looks pretty snappy. Problem is, he's fighting a guy in Randy Brown who's a lot younger than him. Not a decade younger, but he's 33 years old. He's, good 7 years younger than him. He's going to be a lot longer in this spot. I just think that Salikhov's going to have a problem getting in on Randy Brown. You're not really getting the full length of your reach when you're doing spinning back fists and stuff. You're kind of, you're taking away inches. So if that's the kind of style that he's going to use, where is he going to hit? Where Randy Brown can kind of just utilize that reach to keep him at bay, keep those spinning attacks away, and make him fight very traditionally. And if he fights very traditionally, that's what you're pulling away from Salikhov. Salikhov needs to add in those wrinkles to make him special. He's just not a guy who's going to come in and he's going to throw jabs and punches and kicks and look good. He's got to be able to tie in these little spinning attacks, throwing a little, landmine here, throwing a landmine there. And that's what makes him tricky, and that's what makes him good. If Randy Brown can keep that distance, he's not going to be able to do any of those things. And basically what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to come in and kind of close the pocket. And I just don't know at his age if he's going to have that for 15 minutes. So I do like Randy Brown here. I can see him finishing him, but I can also see him playing very, very cautious in this fight. Matt Cully is his trainer, and Matt Cully, I've called fights with him at Ring of Combat. Super nice guy. These guys have a really good rapport together. They've been together for a long time. So I have a feeling it's going to be one or two things. They're either going to go in, they're going to look to finish Salikhov late, or Matt Cully's going to have him just kind of laying back and poking and picking at him and just get the win. So we'll see what happens. But either way, I can see Randy Brown finishing late or by decision. Next one, Viviane Araujo versus Natalia Silva. With this fight, it's interesting because this is Natalia Silva's biggest test, in my opinion. I like Viviane Araujo. I think she's tough. I think she's gritty. I think she's got a good overall fighting prowess. But the problem with her is the longevity of her fights, she just doesn't have that same steam going from bell to bell. And not like, I'm not saying that every fighter's going to incline their pace or they're going to stay at the same pace they were in the first minute, but she kind of takes a nosedive in certain fights. And Natalia Silva is somebody you can't take a nosedive against. You know, she's somebody that's going to constantly be applying pressure. And if you're constantly applying pressure, you got to fight your way out of it. So Natalia Silva is going to extract energy from her. It's not going to be a space fight where they're just going to be in space and, all right, you hit me, I hit you. She's going to be pushing the pace with kicks and punches and level changes and stuff like that, where Viviane Araujo is going to have to not only fight defensively, but she's also going to have to throw out some offense to get her off her. And that takes energy. You know, so that's what I fear in this fight. But I do think Viviane Araujo, athletically, skill set wise, explosion, strength wise, I do think when they're both gas tanks are equal, she's a good fighter. It could be a really good fight. And I think it's going to be a very competitive fight until you start seeing Araujo kind of dip down. And I think Natalia Silva's pressure is just going to get to her. So I'm going to go Natalia Silva, probably by decision. I haven't really decided yet, but I got Natalia Silva on that side. All right, last fight we're going to break down. We're going to go Khizriev versus Muradov. Muradov is a guy who obviously is on the money team, you know, and I think everybody kind of looks at that almost like he must be special because Floyd Mayweather has him and it's an MMA fighter. But you can't look at that because at the end of the day, a trainer is a trainer and is a trainer. And his stand-up guy is Dewey Cooper, which a lot of guys in MMA have Dewey Cooper. And I got a lot of respect for Dewey Cooper. I think Dewey Cooper is a good trainer. I don't think he's a great trainer, but I think Dewey Cooper is a very good trainer. But at the end of the day, it's still he's not getting anything special. You know what I mean? It's not like they're bringing all these guys and Mayweather. He's got a trainer that a lot of people have. He's got trainers that a lot of other fighters have. You know, is Muradov good? Yeah, I think he's good. Does he have good striking? Yeah, he's got good striking. Is his wrestling, his grappling, his takedown defense, all that stuff getting better? 1,000%. But he's fighting a guy in Khizriev who literally is relentless with the takedowns. This is his game. This is a guy who just wants to take you down. He wants to smother you, wants to get on top of you, wants to put that pressure on you. And I don't know if that's going to suit Muradov's style. Muradov needs some kind of timing. He needs some kind of space. You know, you don't take an overall striker, which he is, even though he's got other factors in his game. You can't really put an overall striker on his back foot and just make him fear the takedown, because what that does is that makes you pull your punches back. Okay, so if I'm a striker and I'm fighting a grappler and I know all he's going to shoot, I'm not going to be overextending and fully committing to my punches because I got to guard that second level, because I know, okay, I can overextend here, I could throw a hook here, I could throw something blind where he's going to change levels, he's going to take me down, I'm not going to be able to get back up. I need to stay at my feet on all costs. So basically what you do is you start kind of just throwing things out and you start fighting tempered. You start fighting at 60%, 70%. Then maybe what you'll do is you'll commit to a couple things, but then that can cause a level change. And then once that happens, then your confidence goes out the window, and now you don't know when to commit, when not to commit, when to fully commit, when to half commit. So it becomes kind of a mind screw, for a striker going against a guy like Khizriev. The problem with Khizriev is his time in the cage is nil. He hasn't fought a lot. This is a guy with a lot of canceled fights. He's only fought a couple times since 2019. So you got to wonder, where is he? We know how much talent this guy does have, but where is he? The only thing that gives me a little bit of solace is that, listen, all fighters need timing, right? You got to have a timing fighter. You need timing on your shots, but there's a lot more timing that's needed if you're a striker, because there's so much more involved. There's range management involved. There's getting that feel again to understand when he's coming in, how to make adjustments, and stuff like that. Where wrestling, you need to time shots. You need to understand, look, this is when I'm going to shoot. This is when I'm going to commit. This is when I'm not going to commit. This is when I'm going to. So there's timing involved in that too. But if he was more of a striker, I'd be a little bit more concerned with, the striking timing, because that takes a while to get into a rhythm. That takes a while to really find your guy and get back into live time. It's not like sparring, where when you're grappling with somebody, you're wrestling somebody, you guys can go 100%, and you guys can get that timing down. But in striking, it's a little bit different. Unless you're a guy like Strong Strickland, where you guys are putting, all into it, or back in the day when like Luke Rockhold and that camp used to go all out. But a lot of these guys, they kind of just flow and tap and spar, and they'll have a couple hard, sparring sessions, but it's not like live when you got a guy actually trying to really, really hunt you. So I'm going to go Khizriev here. I don't think the timing is going to be that much of an issue. I think Muradov's going to have an issue, with the takedowns. He'll probably find his way back to his feet a little bit, but like I said, the fear of getting taken down again, the defensive shelling up, trying to get him off and trying to create your own offense. I think it's going to be like a sandwich. It's going to happen from a little bit. It's going to close the gap. It's going to happen from a couple spots. Almost like when what's his name? I forget his name. Fights. Utilizes his striking really well, but then when you close the gap on him, it's like now he's got to start all over again. So I could see a situation like that. So I'm going to go Khizriev here. I could see him possibly getting a sub here, but maybe decision, but I'm definitely leaning on the Khizriev side. So that's it. Overall, the rest of the card's pretty good. Guys like Rabina and Radke fighting. That's going to be an interesting fight. Molly McCann and Diana Belbita. That's a good fight. I'm excited to see this kid Maxim. I like this kid Maxim a lot. Watched some of his film. He does have some holes in his game. His chin is a little suspect. He can load up, but I do like this kid. You got Garimbo fighting Petey Rodriguez. You got Young fighting Blake Builder, another guy Young who I'm very interested in seeing him fight in this fight. And I'm interested in seeing if Blake Builder is going to take time off or he's actually going to fight for 15 minutes, because that's going to be the telltale sign of this fight. Is Blake Builder going to fight for 15 minutes, or is he going to take some time off? Because he takes some time off, he's going to have an issue in this fight. Luana Carolina, Storilenko, another good fight. You know, Storilenko, submission or bust, 10 submissions, all in the first round by armbar. Luana Carolina is going to have to try to obviously stop that and take that into deeper waters. A lot of good fights. Really, really fun card to start off this long run. Subscribe to the channel. Like, comment below. Go to the MadLabMMA.com if you guys want to see full breakdowns, DraftKings, wagering predictions. We're off to a really good start. Also, I do want to announce the Fight Club. We have something new called the Fight Club. You can go to thefightclub.com, CLB, not CLUB.com, CLB, so it's FIGHTFLB.com, and wait till you see what we're doing over there. So get on over there, put your email in, opt in. We will send you information about what we're doing. Nobody's doing this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that you guys definitely should check out. Limited spots are available. We have sold some tickets already, but we do have some room left, and we do hope you will join us. So I will see you guys next week. Take care.